I see a lot of good players working on their side view swing planes, trying to get the club to point diagonally to that golf ball. But what they're not doing correctly is matching the body rotation to the swing plane. So they get the club looking pretty close, but the body is out of position. And then when they make their downswing, the club doesn't work properly. Terzo here, PGA member and instructor out of Del Mar Golf Center in Southern California. And today we're going to talk about one of the most neglected parts of the golf swing, how the body rotation from the front view affects the side view swing plane. Without the proper setup from the front view and the side view, the body rotation and the swing plane will not work properly. The most important part of the front view setup is the spine angle. My head has got to be angled away from the target so that my left ear is positioned between the center of my feet. My feet are shoulder width, toes out even on both sides, but my head is behind the center line. At the same time, my hips go slightly forward, so I don't want to sit back on my right hip, or you can see my spine goes straight up and down right here, and that's where I'm going to make a funny rotation and probably an outside-in downswing. So I want to make sure that my head is behind the center, my hips are slightly forward, and at the same time, my hands go slightly forward of center, not too far. I see a lot of hands forward like this. Well, that opens the shoulders up, and when I turn from there, the club generally goes to the inside. So we want to make sure there's a line passing through my left ear, through my right wrist, and my club head at the center of my feet. Well, the most important part of the side view setup is that when I bend to the ball, my shoulder rotation line and my club shaft line are almost parallel with each other, slightly flatter on the shoulder line. If I'm sitting a little too flat, the shoulders will turn level to the ground and my club is trying to move up the swing plane line right there and it doesn't match. So if I bend properly, when I move my shoulders, my club works easier up the swing plane line. In order to do that properly, 2 checkpoints. My arms, when I hang them free from my shoulders, have to be a fist from my thigh right there. The club shaft also has to point at my waist where I bend to the ball. If I get those 2 things right, I can probably pick any club and set in the right spot with my body angle. If I'm sitting a little too much, my arms will hit my legs or my club will be pointing too much at my belly button, and when I turn my shoulders from here, the club will go inside right there. So here's going to be the most important thing that we learn today. Probably won't hear this very often, how to match your body rotation to the side view swing plane. Okay, so we're going to get back into our setup position, and what we're looking at the address position here is the spine angle from the front view, the spine angle from the side view, and the shaft line from the side view. We're going to call that the original shaft line. Okay, so the very first thing I want to do when I move my backswing is move my shoulders around my spine, and as I do that, you can see the club shaft travels up the original shaft line to this point right here. If you look at my hips, I'm not sliding them to the right, I'm not dropping my shoulder down. If you watch me do that, you can see the club goes up above that swing plane line, and this is where most people try to manipulate the club to the swing plane with their hands, and then the body gets all out of position. Okay, so I'm moving my shoulders to this checkpoint right here where the club travels up that shaft line and my spine is still in the original position. Well, at this point right here, I want you to take a look at the club head. The face of that club matches how much my body angle is bent to that ball. So if I'm standing straight up, the shaft and my spine are the same position. When I bend to that ball, that should be the same right there. So I'm not going to let my hands move the face open like you hear some people say, go ahead and move your hands first on the takeaway. Well, then as I turn, you can see where the club goes. It goes up, laid off to that swing plane line. So I want to make sure the very first move is what we call the one-piece takeaway. We've heard that from before in our past lessons, that the club shaft moves up that shaft line in the beginning part of our takeaway. So what do I do after this? Now I'm going to start to twist my hips in the center and keep my shoulders rotating around the spine. At the same time, I'm starting to hinge my wrists so that the club shaft stays pointing diagonally inside that golf ball right there. Okay, so turning to checkpoint 1, then shoulders and hips and hands work until I get to the very top of my backswing where my spine angle is still in the original position and my left arm covers my right shoulder and it's parallel to that original shaft line at the address position. Okay, so if I do something funny from here to the top of my backswing, if my left side drops down, if my left hip or my left knee drops down, you can see where the club goes. It goes above the swing plane, and I'm going to come over the top and slice the ball from that position. If I move my head to the right as I turn, my club goes to the inside, and now I've got to lift my club to the top of the backswing and probably going to come over the top from that same spot. From the side view, if my shoulders don't stay down properly, if I end up spinning and I look like I'm in my spine angle from the front view, but my shoulders are flat, you can see where my arm is. If it's covering my right shoulder, it's not going to hit the ball from this position. I'm going to come too much from the inside or possibly do some kind of funny move with my hands. By the way, that's what causes a shank. So what most people do from here is they go, let me get my arm up or maybe my hand with a little cup in the wrist, and now lots of problems happen from that spot also. Okay, so most important thing we're going to do is from this setup position, match the body rotation from the front view with no hands on the early part of that takeaway until the club is just before parallel from the front view, and you can see it from the side still on the swing plane. And then as I finish turning my shoulder rotation, keeping my hips centered, my club stays pointing at the ball with my left shoulder in the appropriate downward angle, my left arm covering my right shoulder, and not to mention my left wrist at the top of the backswing can't be cupped and the club can't be pointing in a funny direction. So flat wrist to the left arm. So now I can take my downswing, drive my hips the way I'm supposed to, and tuck that club to the inside out position. Wow, that's a lot of information. It's not easy to do all that stuff at one time. You got to understand it first. Then you're going to work on your body rotation and then match the swing plane up to that body rotation. If you need help with your golf swing other than that, you want to work on these positions together, come on down to Del Mar Golf Center and ask for Terzo. Swinging outside in or over the top makes my ball go left or slice. But it also makes my feet look like this through the impact position. My left foot spins open and my right heel spins out behind my right toe. Well, a good impact position, the left foot stays planted to the ground and my right heel kicks inward and upward in a line related to my right leg. So if I see any type of heel outward funny, I know that my hip and my head are out of position. Hi, I'm Matt Terzo, PGA member and instructor out at Del Mar Golf Center in Southern California. Today's tip is on how to use the right heel properly through the impact position. A good downswing and impact look like this. The hip moves to the outside of my left leg where it opens a little bit more for impact. My head stays behind the center of my feet and my right heel is in an inward position to my toe and up about 1 inch off the ground. At this point I can release my club in a straight line from my left shoulder down to my club head inside my left foot. Well, this is where I'm going to hit a draw from. What most people do is they move their head forward, and you can see how my right heel kicks out for balance. This is where I'm going to hit a slice from. My left hip stays back and my head goes forward and my heel kicks out. So you can see how these 3 points are connected. Heel, hip, and head. Inward for a draw on the heel, outward for a slice. A good way to work on your right heel action is to take a tee and a ball and place it behind your right heel at the address position. So when you're working on your swing, you can tell if your heel kicks outward and knocks that ball off the tee. If you do it properly, the ball should still be standing when you're done.